Hello and welcome to another episode of Sports and Songs podcast. We're on season 6. Tonight is episode 4, the Songs edition. Andy, how are you?
Doing good, doing good.
Well, tonight's December 5th, 2024. We're going to do an album review. Little Tom Petty. We don't cover him too much.
Nope.
Tom Petty, neither of us are big fans of, the Heartbreakers or Tom Petty solo. Although we're not fans, we do respect his work. He's very accomplished songwriter, right?
Yeah, I've never bought any of his stuff. I've listened to it. But okay, I take that back. I did own both of the Traveling Wilbury albums.
Oh, that's right.
So I kind of had Tom Petty stuff. But I like his stuff. I'll listen to it. I won't go out of my way for it. I'm not going to go, this or that, but it's good to listen to. Growing up, he was one of my first exposures to Southern rock.
Yes.
To me, when I hear Southern rock from the 70s and 80s, that's one of the first names I come up with is Tom Petty. Good artist, don't get a nice guy. I'm sure he was a wonderful person, but just I didn't get too excited about him.
Yeah, same here. I was into the heavier metal when I got into the rock and the hard rock stuff. Petty was out there, but more softer. But I've never bought an album until this one. This is Wildflowers. I remember back in the late 90s, I actually bought this CD. I still don't know exactly why or what prompted that, but I went out and actually got it. And so,
did you do it to impress a girl?
No. It was interesting, and it may have something around that, but I'm not sure. This was late 90s. But my divorce wasn't until 2022, 2022 timeframe. So I didn't buy it because of that. But this album by Tom Petty is a solo album, and it deals with those very topics.
Okay.
This is the lyrics and content of this is very emotional. This is a deep album. When he was going through some troubling times, he was receiving therapy, Andy. They had a trial separation with his ex-wife. The daughter listened to this album and she's like, okay, I see the writing on the wall. Mom and dad are getting a divorce. The lyrics leave very little chance to anything else happening with all this coming out like this. So this is Tom Petty's second solo album, released November 1994. So this is this is 30 years old, Andy.
Yep.
30 years old. Now, it's his first album released by Petty after signing a new contract with Warner Brothers. And this comes into play, too. He was signed a long time with MCA, right? He was with MCA for many years with the Heartbreakers. And then he wanted to switch up and get things set up. And then he was with the Traveling Wilburys. We haven't covered them at all. This is the first album he used with producer Rick Rubin, we've talked about many times.
Right.
And so this album came out very well received by critics upon its release, certified 3 times platinum, but it's very different than anything else that he's done. And I want to make sure we jam that message home to people. If you're looking for some hard rock, some wild jamming songs, this album is certainly not it. So Wildflowers is credited to Petty only. The album is called, it's Tom Petty Wildflowers, not Heartbreakers. And so Tom Petty at this time wanted a little more freedom with what he was doing, and he didn't want to be strapped to the same 5 guys doing the same things that the record label wanted, the A&R guy wanted, what kind of music they wanted, and the timeline that came with it. When you did an album, there was a timeline. Everything had to be done in a certain way, blah, blah, blah. Tom Petty was far enough along in his career that he's like, you know what? I've been there, done that. I want to just rent out a studio and hash this solo album out and bring in some guest musicians and have fun with it. I don't want a time limit. I don't care how much it costs. I'm going to cover it all myself. That's what's so different about this. He was going through this trial separation. He was receiving therapy. He was in California after being a Southern, a Gainesville, Florida guy for so long. And he had that Southern rock. This is really almost California rock for all of his emotional stuff going through while living and moving to California. The drummer's not in this. Stan Lynch is not in this on this album. And so he let him go as part of the Heartbreakers, and then said, "I want to do a solo album." But basically, the first thing he did was started. He recruited the first few musicians he asked were the Heartbreakers.
Right.
So this album, although it's solo, it's really Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers without the
Right.
drummer. Is essentially what it is. Then he brings in a bunch of other guys. He auditioned numerous drummers for the album. He eventually chose Steve Ferrone. Steve Ferrone, very good, and they just hit it off and did and had a good time here. Now, Petty wrote and recorded numerous numerous songs for this album. The original plan was to have Wildflowers to be a double album with 25 songs. Andy, what's your thoughts on that? A double album, 25 songs.
I'm not a fan of them.
No, same here.
If it's like a greatest hits or some kind of something like that, maybe. That's where like Guns N' Roses did use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
Yep.
Do it as two separate albums then. But a double album, I don't know. Not a fan.
So interesting thing enough, we could be good A&R guys, record producer guys, Andy, because that's the only thing they said, that's going to be too long. 25 songs on a double album, going through all this emotional therapy. It's almost like before grunge was popular, that's all that was. This is kind of a grunge album because everything's coming and spoken straight from the heart. He's wearing his emotions right on his sleeve right here on all these lyrics. It's like a grunge feel to it, almost with the not the negative and the pessimism, but the I struck out and this isn't working in my life and this isn't, and maybe this I'll try. And it's almost this album, after listening to it, it's like a midlife crisis, Andy.
Kind of, yeah.
This guy, and I watched the documentary too, we'll touch on that later, but Tom Petty had his musical career essentially kind of all landed in his lap when he was a young guy. We talk on the show about many people's struggles to be a young artist and to finally make it and crack it open big and get to be popular. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were basically always popular. They didn't have to do much work. They were in the limelight. So now he gets into his midlife crisis here. Essentially, is what I'm calling it. That's my opinion, actually. And he's the first time he's dealing with stress and his mind isn't right. And so, very good. First thing he wants to do is 25 songs. They say, no, that's not going to fly. They said, okay, let's reduce it from 25 songs to 15 and put it on a single album. Now, 15 in my mind is even too long. That's what they decided.
Yeah.
It's 62 minutes and 48 seconds, this. Now, the problem, or the good thing, I'll call it the good thing, is that they went into the studio and they recorded all of these songs, 25, with the guest musicians, have them all on tape and ready to go. And then they went through and said, hey, which one should we cut? Well, he's got a couple songs with Ringo Starr on drums and had to cut one of them. I mean, this is the stress that he had to go with later. He had famous musicians come in to play. They hired an orchestra, 5 of the songs, to come in. And it's like, well, I got to dump some of this off. I got to cut these. Well, are you going to release it later? Well, maybe I will. I don't have any plans to. So they got it down to 15. All 15 are good. And when you listen to, which eventually got released later, the other 10, those other 10 are phenomenal songs that would have done well on their own, even being released as singles. And so this was the stress he was dealing with. So they cut it down. They agreed to do 15. One of their best songs was Leave Virginia Alone, the song. Well, Tom Petty says, hey, I'm going to give this to Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart, you take this and record it. He does it. It becomes a hit. Yep. The Rod Stewart version on this song, Leave Virginia Alone, becomes a hit single the following year. And that's one of those that he didn't have room for on the album. So that goes back to, once again, the number of strong songs on this entire album they're so good. Once again, they're not rock, they're not hard, but very wild stuff. What he noticed and what he said also about working with Rick Rubin is he said, Ruben says, "You're the expert here. You've been doing this a long time. Put whatever you want on it." And Tom Petty had a hard time to get that concept around his head. Working with MCA and the previous producers, they say, we're going to lay these tracks. We're going to rent the studio. We're going to lay down the guitar tracks first. We're going to lay in the drum tracks. We're going to do the bass and do the vocals. And then we'll produce it all together, throw it all on software, and edit it all. It was a very produced process. And when he gets to this with Rick Rubin, they said, no, let's record it all live with all of us playing. And so this album, once again, if you listen to it, there's no edits, there's no Pro Tools involved. It is a phenomenal sound to it, very raw, very raw. So here's the tunes. Track listing: Wildflowers. The actual song Wildflowers was not released as a single, and that became a popular song. Next song is You Don't Know How It Feels.
That's
Next
good
song
tune.
is Time to Move On. Once again, slow songs dealing with emotional baggage, I'll call it here. Next song is You Wreck Me. Next is It's Good to Be King. Song 6 is Only a Broken Heart. 7 is Honeybee. That's more of a rocker song. Song 8, Don't Fade on Me. Next song is Hard on Me. Next song is pretty good. Cabin Down Below. Pretty good. He's also known for his very good lyrics. And keep in mind, Tom Petty will insert some comedy. There will be some inside jokes and some funny sayings on some of these songs, even though they're talking about tough topics. Cabin Down Below, To Find a Friend, A Higher Place, House in the Woods, Crawling Back to You, and Wake Up Time. And so they got this 15 songs, and they got them all agreed on and produced and ready to rock. Now, Tom Petty, I learned, is always very active in the sequencing. He doesn't bring anyone else in and says, I want these songs to be sequenced the right way, and I'll tell you how it's going to be. So they all are lined up. So they sent it off, recorded it, produced it, and off it went. Keeping in mind that they've got 10 songs hanging out there. So here's some of the personnel that was on these. Tom Petty, of course, we know that, right? He does the vocals, but he plays acoustic guitar. He plays electric. He plays harmonica. He plays bass. He plays a Hammond organ, piano, and a harpsichord. Tom Petty, if you watch this documentary, and I'll talk about it at the end, there's a documentary that was filmed with the archival footage and the video of them putting together this album. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm not a big Tom Petty fan in that sense. But after watching this documentary, Andy, you may need to watch this. I was blown away by this documentary. We'll post it on our Facebook and our social media pages, but very well done. His daughter, Adria, was very instrumental in putting this together. And it came out, the documentary. Remember, he died in 2017. Yep. This all came out along with all these other songs that were released later on. This is like his swan song, it turned out to be. This album was everything encapsulated in his musical career was on this. So if you're not a big Tom Petty fan, I do recommend getting this one album, Wild Stuff. Mike Campbell, very instrumental on this with his guitar work.
Very good performer. He's done some solo stuff.
I didn't know much about him, Andy, until I did the review for this album, but Campbell, very intelligent guy as well. Benmont Tench, piano, grand piano, electric, Mellotron, Hammond organ, Howie Epstein. Very good harmony vocals is what he does as well. He's the bassist, and Steve Ferrone on the drum track. So they bring in some additional musicians for some of these tracks. And there's saxophones on one of the tracks. There's an orchestra.
Let me go to Mike Campbell on something about Mike Campbell.
Yes, go ahead.
He's got another band he tours around. They were here last year. The story is he had written a song for Tom Petty, recorded it. Here, Tom, listen to the song, which put on the album. Tom listened to it. Ruben listened to it and said, I don't know. No, sorry, not going to make the album. So he goes to Don Henley, and Don Henley records Boys of Summer, and it goes on to be a big hit. So Mike Campbell's written some good songs. He's written songs here. He's soloed. So when Tom Petty just shows you, like I said, he had all these songs, didn't have room for Boys of Summer in his catalog. So that shows you how much, like I said, he gave one song to Rod Stewart.
How deep it was.
The other
Yes.
guys he had working with him, other songs that were pushing out that's like, great song, but where are we going to put it? It's like, someone offered you another snowmobile. That's great. Where am I going to park it? I already got so many here. You know?
Yes. He was really in heaven during the recording process of this. And if you watch
Yeah.
the video, the footage of he's got smile on his face almost all the time. There's no record producer telling him what to do, no label giving him a timeline. And that's why I think he set it on himself to say, let's just take this as long as it takes. If we lay down a couple tracks, a couple, guitar bridge work today, and that's all we do today. Tomorrow we'll work on some drums, and the next day we'll do a song if we need to. If not, we'll do it next week. They took their
Easy
time.
money for improvement on this album.
Oh my God. And like we said earlier, Tom Petty was established. He was wealthy. He had the money. He says, I want to do this my own way. So the lyrics, they're all his. There's no one else contributing. The other musicians are unreal. Carl Wilson, Beach Boys, is featured on this song. Ringo Starr is on 2 tracks on drums. And one of the songs, they're both on together. So it's got a Beach Boy Beatles feel to it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's wild stuff. And so they said, we'll do a single album. They got it. They did it. 1994. Now, the genre on Wikipedia said this is blues rock, folk rock, and heartland rock. What's heartland?
Yeah. That's not California rock.
Okay. It's
and blues rock and southern rock isn't much different.
Okay.
It's kind of like, in my opinion, blues rock and southern rock is kind of like saying, what's the difference between hair metal and glam metal?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do they look like?
So now here's the other songs. Now they already record these, right? And they stash them away. They're basically archived. And the next album, when they release this as part of the box set and the deluxe set, is called All the Rest. Very fittingly called All the Rest. These songs were recorded once again, early 90s, but not released until they released the rest 2020, I believe. And this is a very good one to get as well. So the songs here are Something Could Happen, Leave Virginia Alone. This is the one we talked about before, but this is the Tom Petty version. He already gave it to Rod Stewart to release, and he took that. But on All the Rest, it's the Tom Petty version of Leave Virginia Alone. Next one is Climb That Hill Blues. Great blues song. Next one is Confusion Wheel. Next one is California. Next one, a tearjerker called Harry Green. I read the comments on this about that. That's a real life person he wrote that song about, that found out later, a guy that helped him out in school when he almost got in a fight that saved his ass, essentially. Harry Green was a big dude. Went and looked him up later. He found out that he committed suicide about 10 years ago. So a whole song dedicated to this guy. Tom Petty, nice guy, about as salt of the earth as you can get. Next song is Hope You Never. Next song is Somewhere Under Heaven. Next song is Climb That Hill. And then last song is Hung Up and Overdue. Hung Up and Overdue. Now, the deluxe box set that came out later, I'm not going to get into that now, but it also has a CD with home recordings. 15 of the songs, home recordings that they recorded. They're basically demos and other alternate tracks of those songs. And then another disc of Wildflowers live recordings of all these from the various shows, concerts, and whatnot. So the documentary I talked about is called The Making of Wildflowers, is the subject of a 2021 documentary film called Tom Petty, Somewhere You Feel Free, The Making of Wildflowers. Documentary includes a significant amount of archival footage from the recording sessions. And this is all 25, not just the 15, but the 10 later. And recorded by Martin Atkins, which had only been recently unearthed following Petty's death. So they're looking through his things and they find all of this footage and audio, and as well as interviews with many of the producers and musicians who had been involved. The film was released in 2021 November on YouTube. be sure to watch that. I'm telling all the listeners here, it's an hour and a half. Very well done. I was blown away that it wasn't released, for instance, in a movie theater. This went just straight to YouTube. It was done so well that this could be something you go to a movie theater and watch. And once again, I'm not a big Tom Petty fan, but it did impact me. Good album, good stuff. Once again, it went triple, 3 times platinum. So here's the singles that they released. You Don't Know How It Feels was released November of 94. You Wreck Me, 95. It's Good to Be King, and also in 95. So once again, the title track, Wildflowers, not released as a single. Not released. But once again, it started getting played and people loved it, and then it went up the charts as well. A couple other songs is during the recording of all this, once he signed with Warner Brothers reminded him, Andy, that his contract was not done with Warner Brothers. He had a greatest hits album to release, and we all know how well that went. I think 12 times platinum. Greatest hits of Tom Petty, 12 times platinum. They had all the songs picked out for the greatest hits, but the agreement on the contract was he was going to add 2 new songs, a fresh 2 studio songs onto this record called Greatest Hits, unrelated to this. And what Tom Petty did, and this came out in the documentary, good stuff once again, is he goes, I can't record it with my guys here in this studio here with this producer here. I need to shut down and go do these 2 songs to get that done, because that's part of essentially the Heartbreakers. Yep. And this is an emotional overload doing all this here, and I'm in the wrong mindset to do that. So we went and got another studio, hammered out those songs that went on to the greatest hits. One was a cover song, and the other one was, what was the other song? I just had it. But so he was in the middle of all this, and what you see in the documentary is the overload of what was all going on in this guy's life with the band members. During all this, he gets back together with the drummer that he fired, and he helps record the drums on one of the tracks for this album. So it was a big emotional roller coaster getting this album out, with the dynamics of his 2 young kids were at home. The wife was going through the divorce, and it turns out, she didn't really actually treat him too well. Looking back on it now, it could have been he was almost the victim of an abusive relationship as far as what he all went through. And so he was getting the therapy, he was getting the counseling, and all came pouring out on this record. And the musicians just said, let us know what to play. I'm not going to delve in. I'm not going to ask you about the lyrics or what's going on in your head, but we'll just help you get through all this. And it went 3 times platinum. So that's it. That's the album. Wildflowers. I didn't know all this was going on when I bought it. I liked the album. It's a very, one word I'll say is this: mellow.
Yeah,
you have to be in the right mindset. It's a mellow album. If you're going to just sit and press play, you're not going to listen to this getting ready for going to a Vikings game or ready to tailgate.
No.
Driving on vacation. This is
something you listen to in your weightlifting or anything like that. No.
Yes. But very good nonetheless. What are your thoughts after listening? A lot of this stuff is new for you, Andy, right?
Yeah, I listened to some of the songs. I'm back to those kind of that dark period for a while there, but I've listened to it off and on, back and forth since. Again, I'll listen to it. I'm going to
post the link to that documentary in our description of this video.
Yeah, we'll put that down below.
That's it.
And
just
speaking
like cabin down below.
Got some concerts. And speaking of, Tom Petty, Freefall and the Tribute Band is playing this weekend at the Medina. Did not plan that. It just worked out. We're just that good.
It literally is this weekend. I did not know that at all.
Saturday, yep. So there you go. Did not plan this. We're not that good. So.
Now, the last thing, just to interject, and I think you'll agree with this, is if you're not a Tom Petty fan, like we're both not, you go back and listen to the greatest hits, and you're going to be astounded by the number of songs that each one of us love that Tom Petty did. We all love his stuff, but you don't think of it, hey, list your top 5 favorite artists. list your top 10. He's never on it for guys
Nope.
like us. But
Nope.
boy, the music is good.
But you listen to that greatest hits album, you listen to every song.
Exactly.
So it's a Free Fall on a Tom Petty concert experience tribute band. Pretty good from what I've heard. They've done a lot of good stuff. So there you go. Slave Raider, the raid is back.
Wow.
They'll be playing Medina March 21st.
That will be very interesting.
Thunderstruck, AC/DC, next Friday. We will be there.
We're going. It's on our corporate calendar too on the website. It's listed.
Yep.
If folks want to show up and hang out with us and listen to some AC/DC tunes, this is Andy's second time here.
Yes.
This is my first time.
And just closed circuit to everybody out there. Of course, if you bring a Sharpie, we'll sign stuff for you. But ladies, we're bringing the wives, so just dial it back a little.
Just throttle it back.
Yeah, there'll be no breast autographs at this event. The wives will be there. So
not like the last time.
Yeah, not the other times or at ball games. We'll sign anything, but here, to show a little class. But if you don't like tribute bands, AC/DC themselves, April 10th, Minneapolis, Minnesota, U.S. Bank Stadium. Tickets go on sale tomorrow. This is their North American tour. They're only playing like a dozen shows.
Yes, it's like the first leg, or it's just the introductory part.
And if you look, like they got this show, then their next concert is like 4 days later in Dallas. So they're not pumping out a lot of stuff. I mean, they're in their 70s, so let's give them a little break there. You always say it's bad, but I seriously, folks, would bet the farm and all the animals. This is the last time you'll see Angus and Brian Johnson touring.
Okay, fair enough.
Sports and Songs Book Club.
Wow.
This is not the book Dan sent me earlier today, so just settle down.
Wow.
It's another one. I haven't read it. If I was to read another book, which would make it 8,
okay,
I might get this one.
Perfect.
Dreaming Japanese, the Marty Friedman story. Marty Friedman was a guitarist in Metallica or Megadeth back in the day. When they started, he went on to Japan and is a superstar over there. He wrote his autobiography, Dreaming Japanese, debuted at #1 of heavy metal books on its first day on Amazon.
Now, this guy's one of the most talented guitarists you'll ever run into.
Yes, I've listened to a lot of stuff. I have one of his earlier works, which was basically all acoustic. It was wonderful. Okay. Big Marty Friedman guy. I've listened to some of his stuff. He, kind of like some of the baseball players or other athletes, he went to Japan, made it big there, and just made it home. And by doing that, he's not saying, screw you, America. No, just it's business. That's where he went. That's where he's making his money, So I don't fault him for that. But, very talented man. If I was to read another book, maybe it'd be this one.
Nice.
I do have a quote to bring up.
Okay.
I saw this week on a meme. I'll just leave that there. Angus Feng was the best Kiss drummer.
Anton Feng.
Anton.
This is a great meme. I haven't seen it.
Saw that. I thought that is perfect. That's perfect. If you don't know Anton Fig, do your homework. We'll have to do a show on him one time. He's been on so many different artists' work.
Yeah, basically a true session guy over the years. Ended up on the late show or the late night show with David Letterman, I think. Or where was he? And then, he was with Kiss, but a lot of session stuff. And then he went on to be Ace Frehley's
drummer. He's done work. You look at every big band he's filled in for someone on tour. He did one album with a group. Anton, we have to do a special bonus on him. He is just incredible. But I saw that and I thought, that's good humor. And just one more thing.
Okay.
I saw this today, and I believe the world's coming to an end now. The Pit Diaper. Liquid Death and Depend have launched adult diapers for concert goers.
Well, it is.
I'm just saying.
A good concept, but yes, it's too much.
It's like the Kiss coffin or something like that. First of all, Gene Simmons is pissed they didn't come up with this first. I guarantee it. He's throwing things in his office going, we missed the boat on this one, boys.
I can believe that. Simmons would be all over. But, as a concert fan, we both know how long it takes to work your way up to the crowd. And this is for the people on the floor. This is general admission floor.
Yeah.
It's not meant for people in the
Yes.
second or
This is
third
for
deck.
your guys in the mosh pit and everything else.
This
Yes.
is mosh pit stuff because you get out, you can't come back, and by the time it takes to come back, and if you're drinking beer and you have to take a leak, there's no way to come back in. So your options are: do you not drink the beer, or have just a few,
or
and
do what
go
you
up,
gotta do right there,
or do what you got to do, and then you got to hold it the rest of the time because there's no going back. And so that's what faces the men. I don't know about too much about the ladies. Maybe this is a guy thing.
But you look at it though. This is targeting our age group. Okay, we just did the AC/DC concert. Not going to be okay. There's be 20 somethings there, but I think more of us 50, 60, 70-year-olds are going to be there than the 20 somethings.
It's a great idea. I don't know if people would wear it or not, or it may be a good gag gift, or a bunch of guys to get together and say, you know what, we're going to do it. We're going to get one of these and have fun with it. I don't know. It's comical, though.
You know, we do have the gift exchange Christmas party coming up, Dan, with the family pretty soon.
Okay. This would be...
It does say this would be a good gift to pass around.
And it's the pit diaper for the mosh pit. Yes. That is... Oh, my God. It's very interesting. Love it.
Yes. Just when you think you've seen it all, what do you get the gift to the guy who's got everything? You know,
it's the pit diaper.
Pit diaper.
So, yes. Andy, the last thing I have, there was a segment of stuff I forgot from the original Tom Petty, but when they released that other session in 2020, here's the songs they released. The actual released them to the radio stations in August 2020. So, I mean, this is 4 years ago. I don't remember any of this even happening. There Goes Angela, called Dream Away. There Goes Angela. Confusion Wheel was released in September of 2020, right after Labor Day. Leave Virginia Alone. This is the Tom Petty version, October of 2020. And Something Could Happen was released December 8th. So it'll be coming up on the 4-year anniversary this Saturday of that. So 4 songs released, but I wasn't in the market. I don't have any recollection of this, but it's good stuff.
He's not playing on the local radio stations we listen to. His music isn't. It was Spotify and stuff like that. I listen to the local radio stations, so I listen to them now. I listen to the morning shows for all the booger jokes and stuff like that. After 9 o'clock when they play music, I flip it over to Spotify and listen to my songs there. So I couldn't tell you what been released or not released. The songs I had on my playlists, I couldn't tell you if they're ever released or not. I just like them, so they're on there.
We're not in that whole target, the target market for this, but
demographics, as they say.
The demographic, as they say. But this is good stuff. Really went well, and
we are in the pit diaper demographic, though.
The pit diaper demographic is going to be very interesting. In fact,
that's us. I think.
I could think of other scenarios that would come in handy. Maybe an all-day shopping mall in America.
Family show, stop.
Maybe a long walk in the woods, some hiking or something, but very interesting stuff. So I'm going to put the Tom Petty stuff in there, the link, and we're going to post this documentary as well. It's free. Once again, it's free. You can just watch it on YouTube, but very impressed with the work. I did leave a comment on their YouTube page thanking the daughter, Adria, for her work on doing this. Talk about a stressful situation for the daughter.
Yeah.
Knowing the negative, I'll leave it there. There's no hateful comments on this about the ex.
I've never heard a bad thing about Tom Petty, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, there are some slight jabs in there that are obviously directed toward her, obvious, and that's what's so weird about Tom Petty. But it's stuff from the therapy sessions. Now you got a daughter who's listening to this, reading the lyrics, and saying, "Ooh, this is very horribly uncomfortable, awkward to listen to." But she's an adult, very good into music herself, and assisted with putting all this together, meaning now you're opening up, recreating these old wounds from years ago. And this is 30 years ago.
The guys who gave jabs to him on that or had bad things to say about it are all in their mid-30s, living in mom and dad's basement, and think pro wrestling is real. That's who sent the jabs. The internet bullies, if you will.
Yes. What I meant was Tom Petty's lyrics himself that he wrote, directed in a negative fashion to his ex that are in the songs themselves. Those are the jabs I meant. Tom
Yeah,
Petty's
but also,
a nice
if
guy.
anyone's going to say anything bad about Tom Petty, that's who it is, because I've never heard a bad thing about
Oh
Tom Petty.
yes, and each of these songs on the YouTube comments section, there's at least 80. There's 80 comments in every single song. Some of them are 300 comments,
Yeah.
and every one of them is nice and wow. A lot of people saying, "Hey, you know, this album really helped me through a tough time in my life. This album really helped me through some things," and it's deep. It's some deep stuff. So get your head around it before you sit down and listen to it. But
Deep.
wow. That's all I got this week. We'll be back next week with another episode of Songs Edition.
Order your pit diapers, mention sports and songs. You won't get a discount, but we could use the publicity.
Just mention it when you order. Great Christmas gifts.
Yes,
White
yes.
Elephant, pit diaper. See you next week.
That's right.